Um, about 4 years ago, I had the fortunate experience of being introduced to the lab school and having a meeting with Catherine Shantz. And I was in her office, and we were having this conversation. I thought it was going really, really well. And suddenly she just got up and walked out of the room, and I kind of checked my reality and thought perhaps I had said something that I didn't understand. It turns out that she had gone to get a book, and she enthusiastically thrust this book in front of me and said, "You have got to read this." And of course, I politely accepted it and got home and put it on my shelf with all the other books I wish I could read. And eventually, this book became referred to me so often that I figured this was going to be my one summer reading for the last decade, and I pulled it off the shelf and I blew off the dust. And this book is called The Dyslexic Advantage. If you haven't read it or listened to it, I strongly urge you to do so tonight. But what I found out in this book, which is a very neurological assessment of dyslexia and analysis of the cognitive skills that go along with it, was two things. The first was that I realized that I had bought into a fictitious narrative for most of my life. I believed that I was abnormal, and the best I could hope for was to masquerade as a normal person among the general population. And I felt badly for myself, having lived under that misconception. The second realization was that within the pages of this book lay an incredible opportunity for me to participate in the future of the dyslexics like our son and the amazing kids we spent the day with today at lab, and create an opportunity where we could introduce these students to their cognitive assets, their cognitive advantage, so that they would discover within themselves what made their minds so valuable. And I say with 100% sincerity that I believe we are on the threshold of a new paradigm when it comes to dyslexia. We are, with the work of Sally Smith, recognizing a methodology to remediate dyslexics as readers. But more importantly, with the advent of these technological tools and the neuroscience that is demonstrating how we can embrace these individuals, we are going to start to see a transformation within a population which has traditionally been marked with some very serious negative outcomes. The 50% of youth that are involved in drugs and alcohol having dyslexia, or the 60% of incarcerated youth having dyslexia. And we're going to start to see that we can add to the 35% of all entrepreneurs that have dyslexia, or the 40% of all self-made millionaires that have dyslexia. Yeah. I'll leave it at two last thoughts. One of the things that makes me not only sad but angry is the notion that you pick up any newspaper and you will see problems that have existed in our communities and our society for decades. And what angers me is the fact that some of the most creative problem solvers are atrophying behind bars and institutions. And we need desperately to harness that brain power, that creativity, that problem-solving capacity, and unleash those individuals on society and create solutions that nobody else has been able to figure out. The last thing I'll say is this, just because my wife brought it up. Our son did go to his first neuropsych evaluation yesterday, and he was terrified. He was terrified that it was going to come back as a negative diagnosis. We are such dyslexic elitists in our home that if we have our way, this is the thing you're going to put beneath your name on your resume in your future. So thank you to the lab school. Thank you to this community. Thank you so much.